All right, welcome back to Sprague Homestead. So we are going to start doing a new kind of segmenty thing on, I think I'll do them on Mondays, called the Mailbag. Monday Mailbag. There we go. We get a lot of questions, comments, emails, Facebook messages of people asking questions, and sometimes I think it's probably better if we go ahead and put these in a video. I do go ahead and still get back to you in whatever format you're sending me. But, we get enough of the same questions over and over again that we think it's probably going to be helpful if we just go ahead and put them out there all together. So if you have questions that you would like us to answer in an upcoming thing, and they can be about whatever. They can be about water. They can be about solar, rabbits. I get a lot of rabbit questions. Birds, LGDs, whatever. Go ahead and leave them. I will do my best to answer them, and maybe they'll make it into one of these things on Monday, even if I just tell you, I don't know. So let's go ahead and get started. So we had a question this week on one of the videos. Eloise had commented and asked what LGD breed we are talking about in particular in most of our videos. Because she made this grandiose statement about how every breed is different and every dog is different. So my answer to this is most of your LGD breeds have very similar tendencies and habits. Now, not everyone digs, not everyone roams, not everyone jumps fence, but in the grand scheme of all the LGD breeds, especially in the United States that we've dealt with, and we've dealt with quite a few of them, there are certain tendencies that these breeds do have, and these are what we're addressing when we're talking about stuff. Not every dog guards the same way. I do mention that in, I think, all of our LGD videos, that they don't all do the same things. Like some are perimeter guards, some are right there in the flock. Some like to just pick a spot that they can see, but by and large, the tendencies overall of the breeds tend to be the same, especially if they are bred to the standard of an LGD, which is to be independent thinking and to watch over and bond to whatever it is that they're watching. So thank you for the question. But yes, basically it's an overview of all breeds. I agree that there are different tendencies in different breeds, but we're basically talking in generalizations here, and LGDs tend to do the same things despite the breed, not depending on, but despite the breed. Okay, so another question that I got, and I actually got it from several people this week, so I'm not going to attach a name to it, but do we ship rabbits? Particularly, do we ship overseas? And the answer is no. I know people who do right now with the COVID restrictions and RHDV2 in the Southwest. Getting rabbits sent anywhere is very, very difficult right now. But even in the best of times, we do not ship rabbits. I think it's too hard on them. I worked with a transporter a few years ago to send some rabbits to Alaska, and it was a disaster. The rabbits showed up after 2 months. It was a transporter issue. But once they leave my care, I don't know what happens to them. I do on occasion work with transporters, but not often anymore. I've had 3 different really bad experiences with rabbits either dying in transport or not showing up the way that they left here. So can I? Maybe. I take it by a case-by-case basis and what time of year and where they're going and how old and that kind of thing. So, but if you're overseas, sorry, not going to do it. It's just too traumatic for the rabbits. I know other breeders that do in other breeds. And if you are outside the country and want a breed in particular, make sure that you're contacting the United States Breed Club for that, or ARBA, and they can kind of direct you. Like I said, there are people that do it. We have several judges in ARBA that travel internationally and have been known to take rabbits with them when they go. The same goes for importing stuff here. So there are people that you can talk to. It's just not something I feel comfortable doing. So another message that I got, or another comment that we got on a video this week that I've had a couple of times now, was from, let me look, Jean Richards. So Jean asked, do you have to breed a rabbit right away when she's ready to go, or can you wait? Because a lot of people say if you don't breed them, they'll never breed. So this is kind of a complicated answer, but generally, no. You do not have to breed them right away. particularly what happens a lot of time is a rabbit will come into their prime and be ready, fully mature, ready to breed. And it's either too hot or it's too cold, or it's just not convenient for you. You can absolutely hold rabbits over. So my Harlequins come in and are breed capable at 6 months. I have been known to wait until they're 9 and 10 sometimes, especially if it's a rabbit that I'm showing, and if it's actively showing on the show tables, like I'm working for a grand champion or something like that, we might hold them back and not breed them right away. The biggest concern when you're holding rabbits back and not breeding them right away is them getting fat. Does are really prone to start building fat on those ovaries, and what happens is then they have problems breeding at all. Your bucks you can hold back forever. We've never had a problem with a buck not breeding. But with your does in particular, as soon as you're hitting that mark where they are fully mature, you need to really monitor their feed. If you're letting them get fat, you're causing an issue. Even that, I mean, we watch them pretty closely here, especially if I'm showing them, because I've got to keep them in prime condition. But we watch them really close and monitor their feed. And even then, a lot of times, by the time I hit 10 and 11 months old, I will expect to see a really small litter of like 4 or 5, where most of my girls will average about 8 usually. So there are some things that you just need to be aware of. But yeah, you can hold a doe open. And I get this question a lot in older does too, especially if you've watched me Rabbit Math. You know that we talk about breeding them back to back quite a bit. You can give rabbits a little bit of time in between. The key is you're just trying to make sure they're not going to get fat.
All right, so I got to jump in here and answer one of the questions that we had recently. I don't remember who asked, but it was concerning solar, which is kind of my territory here on the homestead. The question was kind of dealing with leasing versus buying, and does it really make sense to even go into solar knowing what your current electrical bill is? And this one's really a hard one to answer because there's not really a right answer for the general public. Should you look at solar? Of course, you should look at solar. But should you...
Biased.
We're biased, of course, yes. But should you go into solar as a straight out buy it all, do all the maintenance yourself, or should you like lease it through your electrical company or a supplier or an installer locally to you? And the answer to that is going to be a little bit difficult to say yes or no on. Solar is, I mean, we're completely off-grid solar here. We did it all ourselves, and if I did it over again, I would only change the fact that now, today's technology, with the batteries, I may look into the lithium-ion battery pack instead of the lead-acid batteries. Should be less maintenance that I don't have to check all the time for water levels and to make sure they're healthy every couple weeks. But otherwise, we go through a lot of power, and right now the way we're set up, our panels can absolutely keep up on the days. There are some days you run a generator, and that's just the way it's going to be. I mean, there's no amount of panels that I would put up that I would never have to run a generator. There are just some days that you're just not going to make power. No matter if you have a complete solar field, you're just going to struggle on cloudy, snowy days. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Now, doing a buying versus lease option, that really is going to kind of depend upon you. We here, when we started building this place 6 and 7 years ago, when we started this, our plan was we were going to be here for at least 30 years. And at that point, it was like, well, if we're going to be here for 30 years, we're going to put in stuff that is going to last for 30 years. So our solar system, even with the batteries, we know the panels have a 30-year rating, and we can get to the 30-year warranty, I guess, period, of where they get to 80% of their solar gain. That will be okay. We know we are going to have to replace batteries, and that may change from the lead acid to the lithium ion, but that'll be a choice we make at the time. Outside of that, leasing them versus buying them, that's really going to be kind of up to you. You may do it as an investment. If you're going to stay in your property or your place for the next 30 years, buying outright may be the best choice. If you currently have electrical in there from the grid, you may not want to buy it outright. You may want to lease it or you may want to let the solar company put in a system that you can get a chargeback or a credit from the electrical company. The answer is not clear. It's all kind of muddy, but it depends on you and your situation and kind of what you want out of the situation.
Okay, so the other question I had, or another question that I had, was Gary, who had sent me in an email and said, we're getting ready to start rabbits. What feed brand do you recommend? So I don't really recommend feed brands because everything really is kind of dependent on your mill. I can tell you a couple of brands that I stay away from, no matter where they're from. I don't like Purina. It's just personal preference. I've had more bad luck with Purina products over the years than anything else, so I don't use them. And the other thing is, what is that called? Country Acres that Coastal has. I think it's cheap. It's got corn in it or some corn byproduct, and I absolutely don't recommend corn for rabbits at all. Everything else, kind of check out the reputation of the feed company and the mill it's coming from. We've got a lot of feed companies here in Oregon, and the quality that you get depends on the mill. I feed Payback right now. I'm not even sure where my mill is, but I know it's different than the other mill that's in Northern Oregon because those people keep having recalls and problems. So kind of check it out. The bigger thing is look at your feed labels and make sure it's a feed that you feel comfortable with, that it's meeting your nutritional needs on your rabbits. Like I said, try and stay away from corn. If you can find something that's got yucca in it, that's usually pretty good stuff. The other thing is try and find out from the company that you're buying from how often they're getting the feed in. I know in some areas, Tractor Supplies in particular have a lot of trouble with getting feed in timely. And you don't really want to feed that's over 3 or 4 months old because the nutritional levels have dropped. So I really can't recommend a actual brand, but I do recommend that you do a little research and try and stay away from, anything that's being shipped too far or maybe a mill that's got a bad reputation. Did you see any other questions that have come in lately that you thought would be?
Nope, nothing for me.
Okay. Well, that's it for this first mailbag. We've had tons of questions in the last 6 or 8 months, but you can't do them all. So those are the most recent ones that we've had. So if you have questions, leave them down in the bottom. We'll try and get these into another mailbag. You can always email us or kick us a message on Facebook too. So You want to end it?
That's all, folks. Happy homesteading.
I'm pretty sure that was copyright infringement or something. Happy homesteading.